Welcome into the 61st edition of the Cleveland Sports Realm. Happy New Year, everybody. I'm Jerome alongside Kevin and our fill-in and rotational host, Rob's here on this holiday with us as well.
What's up?
So, real quick, some housekeeping. We're recording this on New Year's Eve. It'll come out tomorrow on New Year's Day, so you can get your New Year started right with a brand new episode of the CSR. And then I just want to apologize in advance. I'm a little bit under the weather, so I may not be talking as much today, and that's why both these guys are going to pick up the slack that I'm leaving off a little bit.
Yeah, but you're still here. You're still going to do a fantastic job as you've done for the previous 60 episodes, basically. And we're glad that you're here, and you sound good. I can't even tell that you're sick, buddy.
Oh, thank you. All right.
You're being too kind.
All right. Well, we're going to get underway here. Let's get underway tonight. The Ohio State University faces off against the U. This game will be happening at Jerry's World in Dallas. And then, obviously, Ohio State 9.5-point favorites tonight. And quite honestly, I don't think the Buckeyes are going to have any trouble. I think that Miami will play them tough for a half. And then I just envision Ohio State dominating. I envision the Buckeyes covering and winning.
That's kind of where I stand on it, too. I know I had predicted a couple weeks ago when Miami was facing Texas A&M that they were going to get routed, and I couldn't have been more wrong in that assessment of that game. And I am going to predict a different team to do that to Miami this week. I expect the Buckeyes to honestly win by a few touchdowns. I think they're going to cover that 9.5 pretty easily, and I'd expect Cardinal Tate and Jeremiah Smith to have a pretty significant impact on why they would be ahead by so much.
Yeah, well, since I haven't had a chance to talk yet, thanks for having me again, gentlemen.
Of course.
And love to help cut in on the slack that Jerome's leaving out with him being sick over there as he's chugging his water. I also want to make a quick note that Jerome did, in fact, steal my hairstyle today, so take a look at his hair, take a look at mine. Mine looks better.
This is the first podcast I've ever done without a hat.
Yeah.
The first one ever?
Yeah. I do have hair, people.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
as the audience knows, Drum and I are brothers, so we do have a little bit of a rivalry, and that's why I think he stole my hairstyle today. Anyway, yeah, so to pick back up, I agree 100%. I think Ohio State probably should cover that spread. I just think back to last year when they lost a game in the regular season, then go into the playoffs. It was total domination. I mean, when you look at Ohio State across the field, they have better everything at every position than Miami does. So I really don't see any kind of trouble with them. And they're obviously going to have a fire under their butts, wanting to really go in on Miami after their, I would say, somewhat surprising loss to Indiana.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that was pretty surprising. But I think that just like the Michigan loss did to them last year, it could ignite them, just like you said.
Yeah.
And that will ignite them moving forward. And again, I don't see them having any problems. I do think Miami's going to stick around for a half, fellas. And that'll be it.
And then you think Ryan Day is going to make the halftime adjustments and then just run away with it is what you're saying?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think of people want the sport of college football to be more fun than it actually is. And what I mean by that is, we look at teams like Miami, who hasn't been good in so long, and what kind of noise have they actually made in the last couple years, even this year, that gives you any indication that they're going to be able to hang with a team like Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State's dumped so much money into the transfer portal, into NIL, into, recruiting that, again, they're just head and shoulders better everywhere. And they're blue blood. They've been a blue blood. Not to say Miami doesn't have some history, but when you look at the current state of Ohio State, it's just they're much better across the field than Miami, so I don't see any trouble.
Yeah, I completely agree. And let's not forget either that obviously Miami brought Carson back in this year, probably the biggest transfer quarterback-wise, I would say, probably this past offseason in college. And then Miami also was obviously able to climb the ranks up to 2, and then obviously they slid a little bit, got back up to where they are now. So Miami has had a better season than they've had up to Miami standards over the last 10 to 15 years. They've definitely had probably their best season in the last 10 to 15 years. But again, Rob, I do agree with you. I think Ohio State's too talented. I think they're better coached, absolutely still. And while Miami has Carson back, Ohio State has Julian Sayin, who was a Heisman candidate this year. So again, I do agree with you. I think Ohio State's going to get this pretty.
Carson Beck, Farson Schmeck, man. Julian, he's not hanging with Julian Sayin stuff right now. I mean, and he doesn't have the receiving core, obviously, that Ohio
Malachi
State does.
Kadarius Toney's younger brother, is very impressive. But we have two guys Carnell and even Brandon Ennis as the third receiver is better than a lot of teams' ones.
Yeah, I mean, you'd say Ohio State has top 4 receivers in the entire country.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So many people last year looked at that Oregon game and said, this is Ohio State's going to lose this game. It's obviously favored for Oregon geographically. It's closer to their side of the country. I mean, and Ohio State just goes in and wipes the field with them. I think that's pretty much what you're going to see tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And then on to our next game, I guess, which is taking place on New Year's Day. That's going to be Oregon versus Texas Tech. That's the big noon game this week. And now I like Oregon a lot in this game. I think the Dante Moore factor is going to be real. I think Texas Tech, for credit them for climbing up to the number 4 ranked team in the country, but their 2 best wins were against BYU, and they blew them out pretty handedly. And then the other games that they won, obviously, I mean, they had a pretty decent schedule, but nothing that really stood out to you. So whereas Oregon, I think they're just, they're facing that Big Ten schedule now. They had a few tough games this year. I think they're more battle tested, and I think I know that they have a top 3, top 4 quarterback in the entire country. So I think Oregon actually wins this game pretty handedly as well.
So that's only a 2.5 point spread.
Yeah, I've got Oregon by at least a touchdown.
Wow. Okay. I'm gonna go. I like Texas Tech here. I think Dante Moore's grossly overrated. I'm not really buying into the Dante Moore hype at all. I think he's good, but I don't think he's like as good as people are making him out to be. And we watched what happened to Oregon last year when they played a tough team in the playoffs. Ohio State dismantled them, led by Dylan Gabriel, by the way. And I personally, I think Texas Tech, I like them to actually pull the upset. I like Texas Tech plus the 2.5 and to outright win here.
Wow.
I think Drome's just taking a shot at whoever he can that could potentially replace Shador Sanders over there.
Same, because he didn't do this last week either. I had to correct him, but Dylan Gabriel did beat the Buckeyes last year as well. So,
yeah, no, I like Oregon. I agree. I think the Big Ten factor comes into play, and I think they've had a little bit of a tougher schedule. I think they are a little more battle tested. So, I didn't get a chance to watch these teams too much this year, but when I look at the schedules, compare them head to head, look at the talent on both rosters, I'll probably like Oregon. This one.
All right, so 2 for Oregon, 1 for Texas Tech. Jerome, you got anything else to add there, buddy?
No, Texas Tech's offense is so high-powered, and they had one of the best defenses in the Big 12 this year, which is kind of crazy because you don't normally see, defense being played point blank in the Big 12. So I do like I said, I do like Texas Tech, and it's my upset special for this second round of the playoffs.
Okay. Okay, I got you.
Fair, yeah.
And then next game on the slate is going to end up being 9 Alabama versus 1 Indiana. Now, this is what I think is going to end up being
Indiana
the
is
game.
favored by a touchdown.
Okay, this is what I think is the game of the 4 is Alabama versus Indiana. Indiana, phenomenal offense, phenomenal defense, led by the best quarterback in the country. They've had a great defense this year as well. Alabama, on the other side, has a potential first-rounder at quarterback as well in Ty Simpson. They have weapons all over the place. Their run game has not been that great this year compared to the Alabama that we've known. We went over that with the guest host a couple weeks ago, Landon. We had talked about that. This is where I think Indiana starts to get into some trouble here because this is where I trust Alabama more than I trust Indiana's football. I'm leaning Tide. You said Indiana's favored by a touchdown.
They are.
I'm going to take Alabama to cover. I'm leaning towards whether they're going to win outright, and I actually think they're going to. I want to see Indiana get past them, though. I want to see Indiana go a little bit further, but like I said, I trust Alabama more, even though they have Kalen DeBoer at head coach instead of Saban. I just trust that brand of football more, so give me Bama.
100% agree with that. I think it's pretty much the same factor that I give into the Ohio State-Miami matchup is when you look at rosters here, you compare head-to-head, like who has – not head-to-head. When you compare rosters on paper, you look at the coaching history here with Kalen DeBoer over Kurt Signetti.
Yep.
There's just one that's a roster that's more battle-tested. There's a roster that has more money, more 5-star recruits tied up into it. These guys are just overall better football players. Obviously, Indiana does have the best quarterback in the country, like you said. But if I'm a betting man, I'm definitely taking Alabama in this one. I think that they have the better roster. I think they have the better players. I think they have the better coaching staff. They have And not to mention, not to get too outside of football, but they have the better resources overall as a program than Indiana does. So I'm going Alabama.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's so funny about that, Rob, is you and I are on the same page about picking Alabama. But I would even argue that Indiana has the advantage at head coach and quarterback, which you could argue are the two most important positions that you could really argue are the most important in football in general. The guy that leads the team, then the guy that's actually leading the offense. So I would give Indiana the advantage with having Kurt Cignetti over Kalen DeBoer and then Fernando Mendoza over Ty Simpson. But again, I just trust that brand of football.
But can I push back and say that
Sure.
Alabama is Kalen DeBoer has college football playoff experience much more than Cignetti does. So
yeah, he has more experience for sure.
And that's my point, though, is like you look at a roster, like you have 5-star recruits against mainly 3-star recruits, and you have a coaching staff with more experience. So that's why I give the nod to Alabama.
Oh, absolutely. Kalen DeBoer's got more playoff experience. To my knowledge, though, Kalen DeBoer and Kurt Cignetti, they both have not won a playoff game, if my knowledge serves me correctly, right?
So.
Okay. So I want to say DeBoer's been there twice.
I think he got the Huskies.
So
there.
he's 0 for 2.
Yeah,
he's 0 for 2, and then Cignetti would be 0 for 1. But yeah. Go ahead, Jerome.
I actually like. I'm with you guys. I like Bama to cover the +7 and win outright. I think that Indiana, I do think is really good. I think Kirk Cignetti's a hell of a coach. I think Indiana's defense proved against the Buckeyes how good they are. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to go ahead and roll Tide here, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, so a clean sweep here for the Tide.
Yeah, I mean, I agree the defense is talented, and it is a talented team, but, like, when it comes down to it, like, I'm taking a 5-star over a 3-star, and that's what Alabama has.
Absolutely. So a clean sweep for the Alabama Crimson Tide there. And then the night game on New Year's Day is Ole Miss versus Georgia.
Georgia's 6-point favorites.
Georgia's 6-point favorites. Do you lean any way in particular on this one, Jerome? I know this one, I think I'm probably leaning the dogs right now just with Ole Miss not having Lane Kiffin there. Obviously, I know that's something we've talked about for roughly the last month or so, but I think this is really where they're going to start to miss their leader that they've really depended on for the entire season in Lane Kiffin.
So I actually like Ole Miss here. To take +6, but not
this isn't a gambling show. Who's going to win?
Yeah, well, wait a minute. You got to give the spread. It's part of the deal we do here. That's what we do every week. But on the college football, I like Ole Miss +6, but I like the dogs to win. So if you're betting it, Ole Miss will cover, in my opinion. Ole Miss's offense is super explosive. And Georgia has a good defense, not as good as they've had in the past. And I'm not hooting and hollering about Gunnar Stockton like a lot of other folks are. I don't really see it. So we'll see what ultimately happens. But I like Ole Miss +6, but I do like the dogs to win a close game by probably 3.
Yeah, I like Georgia to cover the spread and obviously win outright since they would be covering. I like them by double digits. On New Year's Day. I do. I like the dogs a lot.
You think Lane Kiffin's that much of a difference? Because you do have to remember, Ole Miss did win their first playoff game 41-10. Granted, I'll give you, they played Tulane.
Right. Yeah,
So-
but again, this is Georgia. Kirby Smart has won multiple national championships at this place. He's no stranger to these circumstances. Ole Miss is a stranger to these circumstances. This is the first big dog that they faced in the college football playoff. So I'm leaning the dogs. Did they play earlier this year? I want to say they did.
They did.
And Georgia won, but I forget what the final score was. I'm going to see if I can look that up here real quick. But yeah, I like the dogs a lot.
Rob?
Yeah, while you're looking that up, I 100% agree. And again, it points to what I was saying along with the Alabama and the Ohio State factor. Georgia has the better recruiting. Georgia has a program with more money around it, with better I want to say investors, with a better alumni network. So, I mean, you just have more resources. You get better recruiting. You can dump more money into the transfer portal. And when that happens, then you have a better roster. And it's the same thing, I mean, now, I don't think Ole Miss is getting as poor of recruiting classes as Indiana's getting. And I shouldn't say poor, that Indiana's getting poor ones. But my point is that Georgia's getting 5 stars. But they're usually in the top 2 or 3 of recruiting classes every year. The roster's better. And that's why I like them to win.
Yeah, whereas Ole Miss will maybe get a 5-star here and there, but that's mostly 4 stars and a lot of 3 stars.
Like you said, the Kiffin factor is going to hurt them a lot too, for sure. I mean, I don't care what anyone says. Losing your leader is hard, and especially a leader that's been really good there.
Yeah.
But a lot of those assistants did come back now.
Yeah, but it's still the main guy's not there. I don't know. Like, again, my whole point when I started this is like, we want college football to be sometimes something it's not. I think because when, we want like the fun upsets to happen, and that's more
like the NFL where it's any given Sunday.
Exactly.
That's not the case.
That's more likely to happen in college basketball than it is in college football. Like college football, you have your Alabamas, you have your Georgias, Ohio States, Notre Dame, Michigan. Michigan's going to struggle next year for obvious reasons, but like these are the teams that, like, if you ask me to pick a team in any playoff scenario, I'm taking those guys when you match them up with just about anybody. And look, I mean, the history doesn't deny that at all. Look at your last 10 national champions, and you can point to that exact thing.
And honestly, even who was playing in the national championship outside of the TCU where they randomly beat Michigan,
which was a fluke year,
which was absolutely a fluke year. And then every other national championship has been basically blue blood versus blue blood.
Yep.
And I did just want to say, when they faced earlier this year was October 18th, so about 2.5 months ago, and Georgia won in a shootout, 43-35.
A lot has happened since that date, though. So.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Landon did tell us that a couple of weeks ago when he was on here.
Yeah, right.
Resident dogs expert.
Yeah, he is. He is.
All right.
All right. Do we want to get to him?
I think that'll do it for the college football, huh?
Yeah. So now we'll start talking Browns, huh?
Yeah, they won.
Browns coming off a massive win, 13-6 against the Steelers.
And I will say, I projected this.
You projected a win
last week on the
I can't remember the last time you didn't project a win.
No, I did. I did it 2 weeks ago when they played Buffalo.
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't. I did project to win. I said that they always beat the Steelers at home. Browns now 7. What is it? I think they're 6-1-1 in their last 8 at home against the Steelers
since 2018.
Steelers don't win here anymore.
Yeah,
and I love it.
The only time they lost against the Steelers in that span would have been Halloween 2021.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was when we were driving literally down the field, and then Jarvis Landry fumbled it, and then that was basically the game.
Yes, I recall that. We lost 15-10.
Yeah, so this has actually kind of been a house of horrors now for the Steelers over the better half of a decade now.
Yeah, and good for the Browns, And I know that everybody says, well, the draft pick and this and that. To me, that's all hogwash and horse shit. And I can care less about the draft pick because I think winning's more important. I've said that all year on this show, and I maintain that, and I'm glad that they won the game. I can care less that they fell to 6th or 7th in the draft order because to me, you have to win games, and you're playing against your division rival. If you can hold them out of the playoffs and make them play a must-win Week 18 game, which is what they did, good for them. I'm thrilled about the win.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, every time we beat the Steelers, I chalk it up as a W. I don't really care where the team is at. I forget if it was 2009 or 2010. I want to say
2009.
2009, right, when they sacked Roethlisberger 8 times in Cleveland and won, and the Browns were playing for absolutely nothing. The Steelers, if I remember, weren't really playing for anything either because I think they'd already locked up the playoffs or at least locked up the AFC North. But just getting a win against that team, it just kind of rejuvenates the fan base, man. We saw it last year too, when the Browns were 2-11 or 2-12, and they get that magical win over the Steelers in the snow globe game in Cleveland once again.
I think they were 2-8 going into that game.
Okay, well, yeah, okay. But yeah, it just rejuvenates the fan base in general, honestly, just because that has been a team that's obviously they had our number home and away up until 2018 since the team came back. So basically 2 straight decades of just beating the crap out of us, no matter where we were. So now whenever we beat them, I never take it for granted. So I was happy regardless of where the Browns draft that they got the win over Pittsburgh.
Well, that, and you also have to factor in, like when we were growing up, it didn't matter if the Browns played the Steelers in Pittsburgh, Cleveland, or on top of planet Mars. They couldn't beat them anywhere. And now the fact that they've established dominated home field advantage against the Steelers, and they've had last 2 years some crappy teams and beat some, typical Mike Tomlin, Jeff Fisher, sort of teams, the 9-8 every year. And so they've done that with 3 and 4 win teams. So good for them. And I didn't understand the Steelers' game plan, and it was also bizarre that they were more focused about stopping Myles Garrett than winning the football game. That's a them problem, though.
Yeah.
I don't think Aaron Rodgers, personally, he could say whatever he wants after the game. He did not want to be in the record books as taking that sack because there's a couple times, quite honestly, I thought he could have been called for grounding. I mean, he was just whipping it to nobody a couple of different times and, getting the ball out in half a second and all that nonsense. Like, dude, the way the Steelers played made no sense. And then they also threw the ball 39 times, and Aaron Rodgers was awful on Sunday.
Yeah.
He was useless. And quite honestly, I thought Shador Sanders outplayed him. But go ahead, Rob.
No, I mean, I think I agree the sentiment. It's fun to beat the Steelers, but I do think that you have to look at it from a logical perspective. Like, a lot of those games didn't really mean that much. The one that meant the most was the Baker Mayfield win, obviously, when we beat them to get into the playoffs.
Right.
But other than that, a lot of those games weren't really too big of a thing that we won for. So, yeah, I mean, it is like a little disappointing to me that you're going to lose out on a draft pick just because you beat them. And I still think I'll be the naysayer to say that I think that it's going to take a lot more wins maybe for the next 10 years to keep beating them to be on the same level that they were beating us in our place before this little win streak had gotten going. So that's my point is like, yeah, it's fun, and it definitely is like fun. We have a lot of friends from Pittsburgh to point that fun at them, and oh, we beat you guys. But at the end of the day, it's like it's really not doing that much for us, and obviously it lost us out on a better pick this year. So it is what it is. I'm not mad about it, but I'm just trying to be the logical antithesis to your arguments here, and provide a different perspective.
Well, I think it depends on the year.
I'm sure there's fans that are feeling what I'm saying.
Right. I think it depends on the year because, like, 2020, obviously, you play them at home. That was a big game. You had to win that game to get in.
Yeah, 2023 was a huge one.
2023, the DTR game-winning drive was massive because, again, you needed that game to get in. So those two were probably the two biggest.
That's what I said, the ones that get into the playoffs.
Right.
But, I mean, like last year didn't mean much. It just made for some really cool pictures, one of which you had posted.
Yeah. Well, I was in the plain dealer. No big deal. Yeah, right. Keep going.
No, I mean, it was a fun win. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I have different opinions on the Myles Garrett thing. I mean, obviously Aaron Rodgers was whipping the ball out quick to avoid the sack record. I'm kind of frustrated with Myles that he's not going to get the sack record. I don't think he will, at least. And even if he does, and Kevin and Droma have heard me rant about this many times now, even if he does, to me, it doesn't mean that much because he's got it in 17 games now. And they only switched to a 17-game season not that long ago when you had TJ Watt get it in 15 games and Strahan before that get in 14. So it's just typical Myles to me that he slows down at the end of the year. Then he goes to the podium right after the game and talks about how, they were trying to not let me get the record. Like, this has been the Browns' problem for so long. And again, I should keep saying that I'm happy with the win. But, like, the Browns' problem is that they want to be in the media. They want to be the fun story. They want to always be the team that makes the smart comment and then backs it up, but they can never back it up. And it goes to continue with that, with Myles Garrett going to the podium saying, yeah, I would have had the record, but they didn't want me to get the record. It's just like, dude, can you ever just shut up? Just close your mouth and just go to the podium and say, yeah, I should have had the record. I didn't get it.
Well, I think the thing with the Browns is that really, ever since the Haslams took over, and Rob, you were making this point on Sunday that it's an ownership problem. From we were talking. This was after a Browns win. We were talking about still things that are going wrong within the Browns organization, and ever since the Haslams took over, they've basically tried to do everything to distract you from the on-field product. In 2014, they trade up for Johnny. Let's get the Johnny jerseys in here. In 2018, they have the number 1 pick. The consensus was Sam Darnold. They went Baker, which while I agreed with it, that was the flashy thing to do was go Baker.
And now that looks wrong, I should just say.
Yeah, now it looks wrong. I still think in hindsight, looking back at it, I still don't think Allen and Lamar would be who they were if they were drafted here.
Yeah, but Darnold's better than Baker right now.
Yeah, Darnold's better than Baker right now, absolutely. We haven't heard about the Baker talk out since week 7, I don't think, about how great Baker Mayfield is. Then
Baker's in the midst of a horrid collapse.
That's what I'm precisely what I'm saying. The following offseason, after they draft Baker, they go after Odell Beckham. Look at this new toy we have. 3 years later, the whole thing falls apart. Let's go after Deshaun Watson. Look at this new toy we have. Now that whole thing's collapsed. Look at the stadium we're building. Look at what's there. There's always something to distract you from the crap product that's on the field. And Rob, to your point that you made on Sunday, I know you didn't make it on the air, but I do want to give you credit for it. Nothing is going to change until there's new ownership.
Louder for the people in the back, man. I mean, it's 100% the facts. Like, they're always trying to distract you from what's going on. It's like there's almost like this push to talk about this Myles Garrett sack record to maybe distract you from the fact that they did win a fun game against Pittsburgh to get you to 4 wins on the season in a 17 game season. It's like it's almost pathetic, like the way that they're trying to distract you. And like I think the Myles Garrett thing is just another thing to do that. Like and we're going to look back on this season if he does ultimately get it. All the Browns fans are going to be, oh, we got the sack record. Like, okay, at what cost? What does it even really mean, you know?
Yeah,
like,
and we were talking about this too in a couple group chats that we had, but I honestly won't even be, like, it's going to be cool regardless, in my opinion, if he gets the sack record, just because it'll be our guy that's at the top of the list. Like, I'll still accept it as the sack record, but I'm not going to truly be like, oh, Myles is the best pass rusher in NFL history unless he gets like 25. Like, he's got to go out there and get like 3 sacks on Sunday, whereas he's leading the sack record by 2+ sacks to where it's like, okay, like he earned that more than TJ Watt, or not even
100%.
necessarily more, but he earned it just as much as TJ earned that in 15 games, just as much as Strahan earned it in 14.
100%.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think, though, the Browns' problem of ownership, I hate to tell everybody, it's not changing anytime soon because the succession plan's already there. Jimmy's going to give it to JW.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and so they have no plans of getting rid of this thing anytime soon. And they have invested a lot into the city. So you got to give them credit for that. But, yeah, anybody who thinks that they're going to give this thing up, they're sadly mistaken.
Yeah, but okay, I'm gonna say this. Jimmy Haslam ultimately is, and I can't remember if we were having this conversation on Sunday or not, but Jimmy Haslam is ultimately a businessman.
This was Sunday.
If somebody comes at him with a better offer and he could ultimately improve upon what he initially invested, if there's a significant return on that investment, Jimmy Haslam's going to take the deal. He's a businessman. Like, this is where, and this is, I used to argue with my college friends about this back, when we would talk about the Lakers. Shout out Cody Davis. If you listen to this, I doubt it. But we used to talk about, do sports owners care about making $1 or winning rings? You can maybe point to 2 or 3 owners in all of pro sports that actually care about winning championships more than they do about making money. The Browns are making them money hand over fist, and they're going to continue to make them money.
All NFL owners are.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it is a huge, cash expense. You spend a lot of money, but that's my point is, like, Jimmy Haslam would have bought the Browns with the thought in mind that in 10, 15 years, I can sell this team at a massive profit. So whatever I've invested, I'm going to double up on. I think that there could be, an ownership change. I mean, I don't want to, say that for sure, but like, right. I definitely think if somebody came around with the right amount of money, yeah, they would do it because he's a businessman. And just like we're saying with all these splash moves, they're trying to get in the media to make more money. They don't really care about winning that much. So, like, ultimately, it's going to come down to who can make them the most money.
Yeah, and we were talking about how we actually got on that topic, Rob, was we were talking about whether they were going to move on from Sanders after the year or not, what we thought. And you basically had said, well, if the Mendoza jersey sales are going to be higher than Sanders, then they'll probably just take Mendoza. If not, they'll probably roll with Sanders.
100%.
That was the whole argument there.
100%.
Which is now not going to be a possibility.
I mean, it's a possibility still because they have 2 firsts, but they wouldn't be in position to not. They wouldn't get him at their current pick.
Well, because
to come full circle, we'll see what happens with that 9-1 matchup tonight. But
the Raiders I believe are gonna take Mendoza number 1 overall.
Yeah, that's what the
But again, we're
going to
see how he plays tonight against some 5-star recruits out there on a defensive end and see what
Right.
happens.
It was funny because Sam Darnold was. I keep going back to that 2018 class, but Sam Darnold was like the consensus number 1 pick until he lost 42-14 against Ohio State.
Yeah, he got smoked in
He
the
got
Cotton
smoked,
Bowl.
and then he fell, but he fell 2 picks. So anything can happen.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely stand on that, though, that I think that there could be an opportunity maybe one day if somebody came around with a huge offer for Jimmy Haslam, he would take it.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. If it's an offer he can't pass up, I think he would too. I do think it means a lot to him, though, that when he passes, he'll just be able to pass down the organization and keep it in his family. So it depends, I think, on what he values more at that point. And Haslam's clearly proven over the last 15 years that he values the dollar more than just about anything else.
To be honest with you, this is when I worked there. From conversations I had, they planned on keeping it forever and ever and ever. But like Rob's point, if somebody made them a Godfather offer, maybe they would.
But those are emotional. I'm going to be honest. Those are emotional football guys you're talking to. You're not talking to people on the business side. You're not talking to people that are looking at their balance sheets. Those are football guys that are making that opinion.
Well, I also had conversations with CFO.
Okay, okay.
Chief Financial Officer.
Yes.
Oh, you were high up there, weren't you?
No, I wasn't.
But, hey, while we're on the topic of quarterbacks, Shedeur Sanders on Sunday, 17 to 23, 186 passing yards, a touchdown, 2 picks. How did you guys think he played on Sunday?
I thought Shedeur had an excellent first half and an awful second half. That's what I honestly thought. The Cedric Tillman throw was beautiful.
Yeah, it was.
In the first half, they bring an all-out blitz, and he steps up and fires one into Brendan Bates. Great play on the run. The fan in one, to be perfectly honest with you, looking back on it, if Kyle Duggar's looking for the ball, that probably might be a pass breakup or a pick.
Oh, that's a pick.
It was an absolute. That ball was quacking as soon as he let it go.
And so Fannin made a nice adjustment on it. Kyle Duggar didn't know where the hell he was, so that worked out for him. And sometimes it's, you get a little lucky in the NFL. Not too often, though. But honestly, I thought he played a really good first half. And then the second half, I thought he was terrible. The moonball interception was a disaster.
It was the worst interception I've seen a Browns quarterback throw since Johnny Manziel against San Francisco in 2015. It was a very similar play.
To be honest with you, Nick Herbig in the second half should have had a pick 6.
Yep.
Jack Sawyer did pick him on a tipped ball. That one, I don't know if it was all on him. I mean, I know that Highsmith tipped it and Sawyer picked it. But basically, the way I look at it is I'm not going to, take that away from him, because I think, sometimes in the league you get lucky, but it all evens out, because the tip ball interception was not his fault, but then Nick Herbig drops a clear pick 6 that should have been a pick. So either way, he probably would have thrown 2 interceptions, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because the one that got tipped, right, Herbig dropped a clear pick 6 that should have went the other way. And the one that got tipped, once a ball gets tipped, it's anybody's, sometimes that works out for you, or your guy comes down with it. Sometimes their guy comes down with it. And then the moonball interception, what bothers me about Shedeur Sanders is, to be honest with you, he shows flashes of true brilliance, in my opinion, and true excellent quarterback play. But then every now and then he does something that really aggravates you, and it's really stupid, like the moonball to Judy. And I know that people will just jump on Jerry Jeudy to criticize him for everything. People were like, well, he should have made a better effort to break that up. Shedeur Sanders shouldn't have thrown that ball to begin with. So let's go with that. So that's what aggravates me about Shedeur Sanders, because I see true flashes of brilliance and excellence, and then I see things that drive me nuts.
So the thing that drives me nuts about, as I'm going on record, not a huge Shedeur guy, but all of Shedeur's advocates, even a lot of the people who have not really come to the determination on whether they love or are against Shedeur Sanders, I feel like we keep talking about these glimpses of great play, or these glimmers that we see, these flashes that we see, and the only thing I take from that is that he randomly has good plays. Because the biggest thing for me is that we have not seen an ounce of consistency from Shedeur Sanders through, what is it now, 7 games that he's played now? Or is it 6? 6? There's never been a game that
6.5, technically.
Like, I would even argue, we lost the game. I thought the 49ers game was the best game in terms of how he commanded the offense, hitting people in the rhythm of the offense, calling audibles, motioning players. I thought he handled the offense very well. You just happen to be going up against a phenomenal San Francisco 49ers team. And then there's the Titans game where Yeah, he threw for 360, 370 yards. I forget what the exact number was, had 4 touchdowns, but he threw a lot of bad passes, barely completed half of his passes. So there's always been games that you can look at with him. Be that, okay, there's a few great plays. Okay, there's a few horrible plays. And I feel like that consistency just needs to be there for some of the people who are undecided to actually make up their minds, and for the people who are on the high end or the low end of Shedeur Sanders to actually come to their full conclusion on whether this kid's good or not. Because we just haven't been able to see enough consistency from him in order to really determine on whether or not we should actually go into next year with him at under center.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are all fair points. I will say I was laughing to myself a little bit when you said that the worst interception you ever saw was the moon ball, which, yeah, that was horrible. But I actually think the worst interception I ever have seen in the NFL was his interception earlier this year when he came into the game against the Ravens. I thought that interception was just like egregious. There was not a target within 15 yards of wherever he was throwing. But that obviously, that Ravens game had a couple asterisks by it, as we all know. Not a couple, one asterisk. Anyway, yeah. So I think I've been on record, and I'll keep saying that I still think they should roll into next year with him. I think you've seen enough good play. Like you said, he stacked a pretty good, solid performance against the 49ers. There was some missed throws in the Titans game, obviously, but I think you still saw a really solid performance in that game. Those games were back-to-back, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm comfortable with just saying next year rolling with whoever, rolling with Shedeur, because I think whoever you put back there, and I've said this to you guys a billion times, it doesn't matter. Whoever you're going to put back there, the Browns are not going to win more than 5 or 6 games next year for reasons that we just stated. It comes down a lot from ownership. The team is still really young when you look at it as a whole. I just don't think, no matter who you're putting under center, that they're going to win many games next year. So I think that gives you enough leverage to say, okay, let's see what Shedeur actually has. If we can put a competent receiving core around him, a decent offensive line, and which is a very hot take in Cleveland right now, let him go into next year with this same coaching staff, same offensive coordinator, same head coach. Just see what happens, because, again, I think no matter which coach you're going to hire next year, it's going to be the same thing with the quarterback. We're going to be in the 2005 to 2018 trap that we were in of we're going to draft a quarterback, hire a new head coach. They're going to suck because there's not much around them, and you're expending all your resources into both those guys, and then you're going to want to fire and get rid of both those guys the next year. And then it'll be the same thing over and over and over again for the next 15 years. And I'm not saying that might not happen even if you continue to roll with Shedeur. But I still think that Kevin Stefanski deserves to have, for once, knowing who his quarterback is going to be the next year while he ends this season. He hasn't had that since Baker, and even when that happened with Baker, there was an asterisk next to there because of that shoulder fiasco. So that's my take, is I think that you should put competency around him, see what comes of it. I don't care what anyone says. This receiving core is maybe the worst I've ever seen in NFL history. You have a wide receiver 2 or 3 at absolute best playing your wide receiver 1, and then everybody else, mark my words, will not be on an NFL roster in 2 years. Mark my words.
I think the problem is right now is I don't think the Browns see it that way, in the sense of we're gonna have 5 or 6 wins next year regardless, because they've basically doubled and tripled down on trying to win now for basically ever since they made the Watson trade. They just keep re-signing the guys that want to get out. They keep giving the big money to their core players that are getting towards the ends of their prime. I think they see Myles Garrett coming up here on the sack record, Denzel Ward still playing phenomenal, and are going to think we cannot waste another year of these guys' prime, because this could be their last year of their prime. And I don't think that's going to give them enough confidence to actually roll into next year with Shedeur under center.
I don't really. Do you really think that they went into this year saying we're gonna be a force to be reckoned with this year?
I think we're gonna start seeing them restructure a boatload of contracts again. Try to re-sign some of those win now players that are going to be in free agency, like they've done for the last 3 to 4 years, and then they're going to try to put a veteran quarterback, or maybe they do try to move up for one to actually get in. I just don't see them being. Andrew Berry has. When Myles Garrett demanded the trade, instead of rebuilding for the future and getting those draft picks to potentially set your franchise up for success. We just gave the earth, the moon, and the stars to Myles Garrett in terms of money to get him to stay, and that was never the correct option for either party there. And they just, like I said, they just keep doubling down on offering the big contracts to their core players when they've never really noticed that they have to go into full rebuild. So I think they're going to just try to shoot for, we've got Miles and Denzel still in their prime. Maybe Joel Bitonio comes back. I doubt it, but maybe he does.
He stinks anyways. It's not a big.
He's been fine. I think he's not what he was 5 years ago, but I think he's still been our best offensive lineman when he's out there. Maybe he comes back. Maybe the run game gets going.
Offensive lineman on this line by a
Healthy
lance.
Poachich was better than him this year.
Oof. I'm going Bitonio still over him.
Okay.
I'm going Bitonio still. But regardless, I just think the
there.
Browns still see themselves as what?
I said that's neither here nor there. Keep going. Yeah,
no, I just think the Browns still see themselves as being a potential AFC North contender, especially with how the AFC North was this year, that they're going to end up doubling down and maybe try to go after a quarterback this offseason.
Here's a take for you. If Andrew Berry is given the job or allowed to stay in his job as president of football operations, I'd put it at a 90% chance that Shedeur Sanders is your starting quarterback next year.
I still think it was a Haslam call on Sanders.
I just want some consistency around it. That's 3 separate takes fired off right there. I just want some consistency, man. That's it.
So I think, again, I said it last week, I think he's shown you enough that you can go into next year and feel confident. Because, like, the other thing is, like, what probably is going to happen, and I hate saying this, but it's true, I think all the other quarterbacks are gone if Barry stays, and your 2 quarterbacks, like, going into next year are probably Shedeur Sanders, Deshaun Watson, and probably, like, Bailey Zappi because he's cheap.
Dylan Gabriel will be here next year.
I think they'll probably try to move Gabriel.
They're not going to get anything for him.
I don't know, man. I just, like, I've seen enough, like... To me, it's, again, I just think you've seen enough, like, okay, there's some nice flashes there from Shedeur that we can actually go into next year and see what happens. Like, you have so many balls this year that he's put on. I think of the ball, who was it 2 games ago, to Judy in the corner, and he basically handed it to the other was that against the Bears? It was against the Bears, yes.
Yeah.
And, like, in the 5-degree weather, he puts an absolute dot from 40 yards out right onto Judy. And if that is a Mahomes or Allen or Jackson thrown ball, that's all over the top 10 highlights for the next 2 weeks. And Shedeur throws that ball, and every box score watcher just looks at it and says, it was a terrible, he threw another interception. Okay, but, like, that's what I'm saying. This receiving core just hasn't done him any favors at all, and I just want some guys that consistently can be around him and see what we have.
Well, you don't have to convince me twice.
Can I also say, I really want whatever the opposite of Dylan Gabriel was, which seems to be Shedeur, is like Stefanski likes these guys like the Jacoby Brissetts of the world and the Case Keenums, who are also sort of numbers guys, it seems like. Like, they listen to what Stefanski says, like, as Stefanski sits there and nerds out and tells them you only complete 64% of your passes when you throw to this exact corner of the field. I just like that Shedeur is more of a football instincts guy and throws the ball where he sees open receivers and also throws the ball downfield. He doesn't really play to the numbers. It doesn't seem like Stefanski and Barry love, which obviously can cause other problems, down the road when your quarterback and head coach aren't on the same page. But also, I think if anybody should make an adjustment at this point in their career, it's Stefanski, because we've seen enough of his emotionless ass out there, being just a numbers guy. So
yeah, no, I agree with a lot of those points, Rob. The thing with Shedeur is that, like, he does throw it to the open guy a lot. Like, I do agree, but the problem that I see with him is he doesn't, like, actively throw receivers open. And I'm not saying that our receivers are good enough to potentially actually get open if he tries to throw them open, but there's typically 3 yards, unless he's throwing one of those, like the Jerry Jeudy ball against Chicago or the ball to Gage Larvadain against Baltimore, where it's just basically a one-on-one, let's throw it up and see if they can get it. Like that, it seems like he tries to throw them open there, but I don't see really any anticipation or playing in the rhythm of the offense in terms of actually throwing those quick passes. And there were a couple plays specifically against Tennessee where he did roll out, stop on a dime, complete a crossing pattern, and it was like, okay, that looked good, and that looked like that's in the rhythm of the offense. That's a guy I can get behind. And then the following play, he throws that dumb interception, and I'm like, okay. And then that's where just kind of that consistency point comes back in terms of how I view it. I haven't seen enough myself to be able to say, okay, that's our guy going into next year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have to say anything because I've been saying my piece for the last 5 weeks now or whatever I've been on here. So, I mean, there's not too much more I can logically add to this without repeating myself from podcasts past.
Right. I just think if we're sitting here with a 5th-round rookie quarterback and his name's Dorian Thompson-Robinson and he's been putting up the numbers that Shedeur Sanders is, I think we're talking about who we're going into next offseason with, who we're talking about as our starting quarterback next year, and I don't even think it's a debate. I think because he's Deion Sanders' son, that it's just like, okay, let's give him another year.
Yeah, but I don't even ever remember Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Like, look at that stat line, completing 80% of his passes.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if DTR was putting up these numbers, I think we're talking about next year, because I'm just trying to compare 5th-round rookie quarterback to 5th-round rookie quarterback. If DTR is putting up those numbers, I think we're talking about, okay, are we drafting a quarterback or are we signing a quarterback next offseason?
I will still say this too, and it's bothering me, as like Shedeur's numbers are very, very skewed this year because of that Baltimore game. Like, when you look at, and even then, like if you get rid of that Baltimore game totally, which I understand you can't, but if you did, his numbers look already a lot better than, you know, what people are posting now and saying, oh, is this your franchise quarterback? And nobody's saying that he is the franchise quarterback. All I want is some consistency out of the Browns. Like, again, all I can see the writing on the wall right now is they're going to draft somebody like Mendoza or more, and then by next year, whoever you hire, I don't even know who was on the carousel this year, to hire, it's going to be clamoring to get rid of those guys too, because you're going to put all the resources into drafting a top-tier quarterback, you know, and then you already have so much money tied up elsewhere all over the field. Then you're going to pay a new coach. It's like, you know, what kind of money do you have to throw at a good free agent wide receiver or a solid, you know, right tackle? I mean, where's the money going? You know?
Yeah, I mean, we still have, keep in mind too, we still have, you know, a late 1st-round pick. That 2nd rounder is going to be very early. With how Andrew Berry drafted this previous draft, if it is the consistency and we keep the same regime in place, you know, maybe he does hit on another 3rd round or another 4th round. I mean, I doubt he's going to have the class he had this year, because we've literally never seen it as Browns fans to have a draft class this good. But if Andrew Berry can hit on a few picks, then
I know, but those guys are still on the payroll. I mean, and like at some point,
well,
like,
if Barry's the guy drafting,
well, that's what I just said.
Yeah,
if there's consistency going into this offseason and we have same.
I have a feeling. A bad feeling that you're right, Kevin. And I know we disagree, but like, I know what I want them to do going into next year, and I'm not saying it's going to go and get them a division title in the AFC North. Like,
right.
I look at a career like Myles Garrett, and sorry to say, and I don't think he's exactly been the best guy to warrant himself an amazing career, but sorry, Myles. Regardless, I look at like his career, and I already consider it wasted. Like, you have him playing at the absolute peak of his powers right now. Like, he's not going to get better than this. I have a feeling he's probably going to take a little bit of a step back next year. I mean, Ward's been really good for almost 10 years now. I mean, you have these guys, like, their careers are already pretty much wasted. So, like, I don't think you should be scared to say, oh, well, we don't want to waste another year of their career, so that's why we need to go draft the best quarterback and go throw a bunch of money at the best coach. Like, I don't know. I just see the writing on the wall. I think you agree with me, Jerome. Is like, you're gonna go get whoever it might be. Robert Salah. I don't freaking know who's on this carousel this year.
I agree.
And then go draft Mendoza. And then by the end of the next year, you're gonna have Mendoza post the same numbers that Josh Allen did his rookie year, and it's gonna be the same thing. And then next year, you're gonna draft the next guy.
Another reason that I look at it, and this is the God's honest truth, I'm not sure either of those rookies are going to be as good as Shedeur Sanders has been this year. I'm not positive about that.
Well, then you're drafting scared.
Well, I just don't see that. I don't see like
You see a 5th-round rookie with 7 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. You don't see a top 2 draft pick being better than that?
Not necessarily. I don't.
No, I mean,
That's crazy.
I'm kind of on Drum's page here. I'm not totally convinced that Dante Moore or Fernando Mendoza is going to come in here and be a world beater. I mean, a lot of, like, look at Josh Allen's rookie year. It was abysmal.
Right, but we're talking about we talked about this last week a lot, but we're talking about like you have first round draft capital invested into those players. You're paying them a good amount of money. There's nothing invested into Shedeur for the organization to say, okay, we have to have him next year. Like I made this comparison last week, Rob. I'm not sure if you listened or not, but like when the Cardinals drafted Josh Rosen in the top 10, the following year they drafted Kyler Murray at 1, and that was like an insane decision. Like that had never been done, like 2 top 10 quarterbacks in back-to-back years because of all the capital that they had invested into Josh Rosen. It was a huge decision to move on from him. Like you don't see that with first round picks a lot. You see that with fifth rounders who don't work out, where it's like, okay, that swing was a mess, to put it into Jimmy Haslam's terms when talking about the Deshaun Watson trade. But if you have that much invested into somebody, it motivates you to continue that. There's nothing invested into Shedeur Sanders.
All I'm going to say is, and I know you're just providing a random example, but look where that ended up with the Cardinals. I mean,
oh no, sure, absolutely.
I mean, I just think, yeah.
But look at where Josh Rosen is. They made the right call.
I think the antithesis of your argument makes just as much sense as like you don't have that much invested into him. So why risk like trying to take somebody else and just seeing if they're good? Like I think you should just hold on to Shedeur and actually see what you have, because I'm still on the page, and I know you said you haven't seen consistent play out of him and yada yada yada, and I do say, yeah, there's been some inconsistencies for sure, but like you just haven't had the kind of supporting cast you need to put around a young quarterback like this. And I think your flashes of good quarterback play have been enough to say, hey, let's just see what we have next year.
Yeah.
And let's see if he goes toe-to-toe with Joe Burrow next week. That's all I'm going to say, because the Bengals are absolutely rolling right now. For their last couple games. Since Burrow's been healthy, they've been putting on a show every week.
Well, no. The first week he came back, they got eliminated because he threw like 3 interceptions. But since then, yes. But either way, I'm curious to see that too, because, again, for the reasons to watch the Browns have been the same since December started. Which Shedeur Sanders look like? Can Myles Garrett get the sack record? That's why you watch the Browns right now. And beyond that, there's not too much out there to evaluate and see as far as I'm concerned.
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's my point. Like, I mean, dude, I'm telling you, this receiving core is as bad of a receiving core as I've ever seen in the NFL.
I'm not saying it's a great receiving core, by the way.
And I also think this, too. To me, looking at a lot of fifth-round quarterbacks who play, and I know Shedeur was technically a first-round talent according to a lot of evaluators, but okay, he wasn't drafted until the 5th round. And the bottom line is I've seen way more flashes than I would out of any other 5th rounder. But again, that's also skewed because I don't think he ever should have been drafted in the 5th round. But that's that.
100%. I mean, I agree with that.
So
I'm also going to say there's never been a quarterback drafted that's supposed to save a franchise that's been put into a good situation. So, I mean, Drake May, look at where the Patriots were when they drafted him.
Well, yeah, but I think your point also can highlight our point as well, is like you have so many quarterbacks wherever they were drafted that come in their first year, they're just not very good. And like that's what you're having with Shedeur right now. Like, yeah, you look at his stats, and I'm not going to say he's not very good. I mean, I guess you can look at his stats and say that, but like, yeah, he hasn't produced like many first round or many quarterbacks who get drafted do produce. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
No, I know what you're saying, but also like to your point of if you remove the Baltimore game, if you remove that Titans game, he's thrown 3 touchdowns to 9 interceptions.
I don't know. Is that?
Yeah, because he has 7 to 10 right now. So I took away 4 and then took away 1.
No, because he only had 3 touchdowns.
He had 4 against the Titans.
Well, one was running.
One was running. We're talking about his.
Okay, then he's got 4 touchdowns to 9 interceptions.
Yeah, but again, dude. So I mean, I can think of 2 interceptions right now that have fell off a receiver's hands and just went into the defense.
We already agreed that Fannon's touchdown this past week should have been a pick, and Herbig should have had a pick 6. So you can play that game too. I mean, the stats are what the stats are.
Yeah, and I mean,
men lie, women lie, numbers don't.
Exactly. They've been really terrible for a lot of great quarterbacks.
Sure.
Drake May's first year was bad. I mean,
number 3 overall pick compared to a 5th rounder, though. Like, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but that illustrates my point too. Is like you don't have that much capital tied into him, and with a team that's already pressed for so much capital everywhere else, like why would you go and put another first round talent on the payroll when you can say that, okay, this guy has some potential.
Exactly.
We've seen some amazing throws. Let's see what we actually have to provide an actual evaluation. And then if he's horrible next year, then we pull the plug.
By the way, I've never gone on record and said that the Browns have to draft a quarterback no matter what. I'm just giving the reasons why it's not a lock for why Shedeur Sanders should be the starting quarterback next year. I've gone on, I said I still need to see a little bit more from Dante Moore to make a conclusion. I do love Mendoza. Right now, if Mendoza's there, I'm taking him no matter what. I'm not doing that for Dante Moore yet because I just haven't seen enough to come to that conclusion. So I'm just saying there's nothing to basically be like, this guy is a no-doubt starting quarterback going into next year. I don't think the Browns should be going into this offseason saying we have to address everything but quarterback. I think quarterback's on the table for them. If they believe in Shedeur Sanders going into next year, by all means, go into next year with Shedeur Sanders. I just think if you do that, you're looking at 6-11 or 7-10. You're picking at pick 11 or 12, and you're not in the market for a quarterback, and then you got to trade the earth, the moon, and the stars again to go and get one.
Yeah, but if you're 6-11, like, or I mean, 5-12, like. You're probably going to have another first round pick, right? In the class,
I mean, you're going to have a first round pick regardless.
The class, right? Exactly. But the class the following year is supposed to be a better quarterback class anyway, right? So, like, I mean,
that's what they're saying. This year was also supposed to be like an amazing quarterback class, and ended up really not being
that. Crap is always, good
yeah.
ones that turn bad and bad ones that turn good.
Yeah, and you always wait until next year's whatever class, and then we can address it. So I just think whatever the Browns feel like they have to do this offseason, then that's what they have to do. Draft best player available, whatever it is. Go after. If you want to build around Shedeur, then build around Shedeur. I just don't really see that going anywhere. When they're 6-11, Jerome, and you're begging for a third year, don't talk to me about the quarterback problem.
It's Shedeur, not Shedeur.
He spells it E-U-R, not O-U-R.
It's Shedeur.
I'll say Shedeur.
Well, either way, I don't think I will have to, because
Kevin, did you send him a Christmas gift, by the way? I'm sorry.
Shedeur?
He put
Nobody sent the Steelers too in the form of an interception.
He won the game.
He put his P.O. box on his Instagram story the other day. I'm going to send him a Christmas gift. I don't know about you guys, but he said he likes gifts. So if you want to maybe improve his play on the field, maybe give him a gift.
Well,
make him happier.
His house got robbed.
Jerome, how many 186 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions performances do you want out of him? Because as long as he won the game, the stats don't matter, apparently, in terms of evaluating.
No, I didn't say that.
You said won the game after I said he threw 2 picks.
Well, I'm just saying that's a fact.
What was the other pick? There was the one to Judy, obviously, that everyone knows.
And then the tipped one that...
Yeah, it was tipped at the line of scrimmage, and then it fell into Sawyer's arms.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't throw a ball that gets batted. But, like, also, I do feel like maybe more than any quarterback I've watched, and maybe this is me being biased or maybe not, but I do feel like he's gotten really unlucky with a lot of interceptions. The Bears one I keep talking about, that is just like maybe the worst play on a ball I've ever seen a receiver make in the NFL with Judy.
That was terrible.
He literally gave him the ball. I mean, it was just like you could have done so much to protect that. But
I don't know. I've seen some stupid bounces that go against the Browns pretty consistently.
Yeah, the Judkins one, when the Shedeur threw it to Judkins and it popped up like 80 feet in the air. That was a bizarre bounce. But either way,
we're clearly a torn host group here.
Well, we have been for months. I know. For months.
And I'm kind of in the middle because I don't think that Shedeur Sanders is the answer like you, but Kevin, I also don't just want to get rid of him like you.
Yeah, I think the kid sucks, and I think if his dad wasn't Deion Sanders, I think he'd be cut already, to be honest with you.
Oh, I don't think so.
They wouldn't have drafted him if his dad wasn't Deion.
I don't agree with that.
They wouldn't have. They had already drafted a quarterback in the third.
I don't think that's the case. I also think the NFL has a really, really bad problem with getting rid of quarterbacks way too early. So I'll say that. Put that out there.
Yeah, no. Dylan Gabriel's been on the bench for a month and a half for no reason.
Well, I'm just gonna say one thing right here. I think,
Good God.
and this is like, I don't, maybe I haven't seen anybody in the whole NFL landscape agree with this. I think the Dolphins pulled the plug on Tua Tagovailoa way too early.
That's a quarterback I'd look at this offseason.
You're talking about a quarterback that led the league in passing a couple years. And after the game that he got benched, in that game, he was 23 of 28 for like 280 yards, and they benched him the game.
I actually think that's a perfect Browns candidate, to be honest with you. I don't think Tua Tagovailoa is going to save the franchise, but if they don't want to waste a year of Miles and Denzel, I mean, Tua Tagovailoa did it in college, and he did it for Mike McDaniel. He's very much a systematic quarterback, and that's what Stefanski wants.
I also think the Jets pulled the plug on Sam Darnold too early.
Well, yeah, 100%.
And
But
that's
it's just
And the Browns did it with Baker, the Giants did it with Jones, but I do think it's just those are just three, the Browns, Jets, and Giants, three organizations that have no clue what the F they're doing. And so they pulled the plug after a few years, and then those quarterbacks start playing well in different
I'm going to say
environments.
real quick, though, to go off my point earlier, is we have a problem, and I've been telling you get this in the house lately, guys. It's like we have a problem not just in the NFL, but in all of media lately of something is released, and nobody really wants to breathe with it before they just want to say it sucks. That's the worst thing ever. It sucks. It sucks. It sucks. And I think that is something that you're seeing bleed through this Shador Sanders thing is like everyone just wants to be the guy that says Shador's terrible. He's terrible. I knew it before everybody else did. He's horrible.
yeah.
Yeah, Jerome agrees.
No, you
All right,
have
can
been
we-
that guy.
We're gonna have to wrap up soon, right? But
Yeah.
can we
Yeah,
just
We are on
can we
a little
just
bit of a time crunch.
can we just say real quick the real most depressing thing in Cleveland right now are the Cavs, not the Browns?
Yeah, the Cavs
The Browns
suck.
are the Browns, like whatever.
Yeah, the Browns is
Juju,
the Browns.
Juju said it best. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Cavs are so depressing now.
Yeah, the Cavs suck. I honestly, they're not even on the rundown this week. I don't even really.
Well, they did win the in San Antonio the other night.
Yeah, which was
Jerome, the ever optimist.
Yeah, which is surprising. We had a good friend who was on the show probably about 2+ months ago now, Matt Passerell, that was texting us about how well the Cavs are playing. So yeah, the Cavs horrible year so far. They've had glimpses of hope.
They should trade. They should honestly
like
think
Shador.
about trading just about anybody. But we can.
Yeah,
that's
I
all I
agree.
got to say on them. They're so depressing.
All right, Kevin, wrap this
They're
thing
way
up,
more
will ya?
depressing.
All right, well that was basically our New Year's special. We're glad that you tuned in. From myself, co-host Jerome, other co-host and rotational host Rob, and then the man behind the camera, we can see him, you can't, producer Eric. Thank you for doing such a phenomenal job on this New Year's Eve as we record. You can follow us on Twitter or X, Instagram, TikTok, get all of our content there. And then also, obviously, you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Rob, you have something?
I just want to say real quick too, don't be afraid to reach out to us on DMs
Please.
on Instagram. We're really open to wanting to do partnerships. We want to push that in 2026. You know, if you wanna talk to us about, you know, us pumping something for you, you pumping something for us, we would love to do that with
Yeah,
you.
especially-
and love to work. And just help anybody in Cleveland that really wants to get something out there, get a product out there,
Yeah.
or get their name out there.
Yeah, we want to get our name out there as much as we want to get your name out there. So please feel free to reach out to us. We saw the Instagram followers have been increasing a little bit, so we expect that those listeners have. So if you are listening, please reach out to us.
Yeah.
From Kevin, from Jerome, from Rob.
Be
from
safe
Eric.
tonight.
Happy New Year's. Go Browns.